Megatron.
A very hit or miss franchise. Mainly miss. But let's talk about that. Right, now that we have that out of the way, we'll talk about the fantastic story. So, Optimus, Cybertron, Life, with Captain with Wiki, normal with Wiki, Sam with Wiki, Sector 7, Cube. Yep, Cube. Engineer and Scorponok, Star Decepticons. Yeah, that's about it. This film was a year and a half in the making. It was around late 2005. So I don't actually have the exact production days or production time frame. But I can put that in now. Well done, you. And the effects and compositions achieved are groundbreaking. Quite literally. Only falling short in sheer marvel when compared to Avatar 2009, pun intended about Marvel. This is something that gets worse as we go.
Oh God, no!
But we'll worry about the first film. Michael Bay is a talented director, and look, it's fair to say it's undisputed in his success. He delivers an experience like no other, and that's particularly true of the Transformers series, as long as you turn your brain off. So if we talk strictly shot composition and placement, he uses objective and subjective shots, and that works really well to tailor the immersion and blow the action even further out of proportion. He's quite good at using the camera to its fullest potential as a storytelling device, certainly giving the blockbuster feel. He keeps shots relative to a scene, and he harnesses perspective flawlessly. To think about it, these are 40-foot tall robots, and when you're watching in the theater or in front of the TV on a beanbag, they feel that way. Through the documentaries I've watched prior to recording this, which so far is none, the gravitas and scale is extremely important of the robots, Cybertronians, to Michael Bay, and justifiably so. To keep that sense of scale accurate in the theater is no easy task. The large grand universe is carried through the effects and sound design as well, don't you worry. Yeah, it's pretty good. Transformers clearly relies on CGI, or, for the uneducated amongst you, computer-generated imagery, much like Mark Wahlberg's acting.
Oh, you want to get punched in the face like really hard?
No.
What most people don't take into account, however, is CGI is only an element. Imagine an ingredient to a pie. To make a whole pie, and one that's digestible, you need sugar, which is the CGI. Fancy and surreal, gives us the rush. You need your proteins though, eggs. Well, that's like the lighting of the shot, the gooey mess tying all the other ingredients together, blending the imagery into a uniform sequence. Lastly, we need something to bulk up this gooey mess. Flour. Which, put simply, is the shot composition and design. How relative it is to the story being told. This is horrendously and grossly simplified. The computer effects were completed by Digital Foundry and Industrial Light and Magic, or ILM. The same visual effects studio that brought you, let's see here, Warcraft, and other popular motion pictures like Race Through New York with Jimmy Fallon, and and some other films. Transformers is such a fun watch because it mixes these together beautifully. It shows, at least when this was made, that Michael Bay cared. Shots feature practical sets and models to scale of Bumblebee and Optimus, possibly Megatron. Using these practical effects is what sold the generated effects. They meld together. That's one of the reasons Iron Man looks stupidly good. Better than everything that came after it, more or less. Grounding the shots in reality is what makes good CGI. Even when your movie is ridiculous, these are giant robots. There's a surprising amount of subjective shots in this film when you have an eye out for them. And with them sprinkled in, not only does it help the scale, but in turn, the immersion. They also make the CGI look super duper, but that goes without saying. This film, I suppose, the effects, more rather, we could describe as intrinsic. I'm going to rattle off some facts for you fellows, so strap in. 60,217 vehicle parts, 12.5 million polygons, 34,215 texture maps, 48 transformations. Optimus Prime alone has 10,108 parts. Now, despite that, the trilogy as a whole gets a lot of heat about the character designs, and while I partly agree, that they look like a mechanical mess, they also really work with the aesthetic and tone that Bay set out for the first, I suppose the second, and most definitely the third Transformers film. Yeah, it's a mess, but have you ever looked under the plastic cover of your engine in the car? That's engineering. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of bits and bobs. They all work together. It's a mess. So it was more realistic. Those little wheel grab things that come out of Ironhide's legs. That's an obscure random example that I remembered off the top of my head. As a side note though, I love how the Transformers can transform slowly or quickly based on being functional or looking cool, you know? It's on command. But back on point, rendering Optimus with his said 10,108 moving parts is, you know, a bit of a bitch. Then add 13 more Transformers to that. I realise not all at once, but still a large workload to spread, would you not agree? With a few boom booms in the film that needed fine planning. Unlike my script here. It's nothing short of a marvel that it all came together and worked. And this stretches beyond Transformers 2. Not the second Transformers, but beyond as in another. A mark of the Bay experience is quite literally being blown away. If I had to choose one element of these films to be put into a time capsule, I would forcefully stuff the sound design of this film into it.
Before time began, there was the cube. We know not where it comes from, only that it holds the power to create worlds and fill them with life.
It's complex as fuck. It matches the aesthetic perfectly. What can we call it? Relativity? Sure. Before we divulge into the quadruple dose of amazement that is the soundtrack of this film, I want to cover the sound effects and design first. To be clear, the whole film is like this, but as an example, the Autobots arriving to Earth and meeting Sam. Oh, holy jeez. As talked about, the models are insanely complex, all of them, and retaining said complexity was the main priority in the sound department. If it don't sound complex, it ain't gonna look complex. I find the more I listen to this, the more I hear little details sprinkled in the exact right moment. Clicks, ratchet and pause, pops, bangs, they all correspond exactly with what happens on screen. And you'd be surprised how hard that is. Listen to Optimus's radiator grills spreading apart as his appendages merge. And then they compact and slide back. This had my jaw and face in different time zones in the theater as a child. And now, it's easy to see why. You get an experience when the sound design is this good, this refined. Another fantastic example is Ratchet's torso 180 degree. It literally sounds like a Ratchet and Paul with a latch at the end. You can hear the latch. The level of work is just mesmerizing. I'm stunned every time I watch it. And this is just one scene from one movie. There's 5 more. The film is a symphony, as we established. But that's before Steve Jablonsky's work is woven into the sound design. Party piece of the whole trilogy. Arrived at Earth. Is this the most popular movie soundtrack of all time? It's bleeding close. Please, in the comments, if you've made it this far. The most popular film score. I'll be sure to read them all, which will be none. As a disclaimer, I am not a composer, and I cannot describe to you in depth the soundtrack. But if you do want to learn more composing, and music in general, do check out Charles Cornell. Very informative. Instead, I'm going to describe the relation between what you see on screen and what goes in your ear holes. Jablonsky, he establishes grandness by going down the orchestra route. Not dissimilar to Ridley Scott's Alien or Kubrick's 2001: A Space Odyssey. But it has modern overtones made by so many instruments that have funny names. The complexity is both impressive and relatable to the 28-foot tall transforming robots. I think Megatron's 40 though, 40 foot tall. Do I have to amend that? Let's go with 40. We can always correct it later. Soundtrack, more so than any other part of the sound design, plays such a massive role in the tone of a film. And Jablonsky's work is superb. Listening alone gives impressions of an ancient civilization, far older than humans, spread across the stars with a raging conflict ensuing between two factions. It feels real. And that's the greatest achievement any piece can strive for. Speaking of fighting. Let's talk about an aspect of this film where the water goes cold and the pinkies get small. I can't pretend that this movie and the two after it, and especially the two after that, aren't flawed, because they are. However, they really have been crapped on enough over the years. I like being more positive than negative here. That said, now Sam performs objectively selfless actions. Objectively. Helping the Autobots, clapping cheeks, and occasionally, at the same time. So weird. To lay it out, he wants that sweetness. In his mind, he needs a car for this. Not for, independence. Which would be my goal. To get the car, he bums from his dad. I was actually living in blissful ignorance until I reminded myself of the parents. Jesus. His dad, anyway, wants good grades from him in return, so he provides, in a Michael Bay way, whilst also trying to pawn his precious family memorabilia. Now, we'll get back to that. He gets the grade, gets the car, which is Bumblebee, coincidentally, and he gets the girl, and the sweat. From there, the movie continues with the pursuit of Granddaddy's glasses, from eBay. Sam, after this point, becomes very two-dimensional, as we say in the trade. Nobody says that. Any clear motivation fades. The brief, fleeting spark of an arc fizzles out, and he is a boring, screaming, sweaty mess. I feel Shia LaBeouf really did what he could. So my problem is with the character, to be clear, not the actor. So far I've explained that the character's really just standing around. But there is hope. The actual lead of the film, Michaela.
And we've made a discovery!
I introduce her now. Attractive young female, headstrong, independent, but with deeply sown insecurities, and they sway her decisions and her actions. And that's explored during the interrogation in the car with that guy. She shows genuine compassion and kindness, but also isn't a blithering idiot. Instead of comic relief, she induces exposition.
Why are you here?
We are here looking for the Allspark, and we must find it before Megatron.
Mega what?
She actually has an arc, not an amazing one, but it's there. And come the end of the film, we have the kick-ass lead character partnered with Bumblebee, saving him with her own idea, using it to aid in the battle. Now, to be clear, I'm being really brief here, but honestly, I'm overanalyzing this way too much already. Michaela is written as a lead character, but has been shoved into the backseat by this incoherent, babbling mess of a teenager. Why? Because I actually touched earlier on the Transformers, so let's continue that. This is a Transformers movie. What they lack in motivation, they also lack in traits, don't worry. Aside from Optimus and Bumblebee, there's not much to go around. All the Autobots kinda have one shtick each, and that's it. The Muscle, the Racist, and the Doctor. The Decepticons have one shtick shared between them all. They're inconsiderate and talk gibberish. That includes Megatron. Optimus is the closest to, in my opinion, how he's supposed to be in this first live-action outing. He gets worse after this. He is noble, he is selfless, wise, and he puts innocent lives above his own. Sometimes. His compassion is there, but not quite as prominent. He only uses violence as a means to an end, when all other options are exhausted, as Optimus should. And overall, I would be willing to say, B+, yeah, this is Optimus. Bumblebee was a plucky little bastard in the source material, but I rather like this adaptation of him. The whole not talking thing has been adopted since, and it's a defining trait, although I don't think it should be really. For those unaware, Bumblebee did speak in Generation 1. He shares Optimus's bravery and selflessness, but has a more lighthearted approach to the whole thing. On occasion, that's known to include inappropriate humor that's not humor. He's also a fierce warrior, and enjoys the smooth touch of humans mating on him. I left this to last, the story thing, the main reason you'd watch the film, because it's where the problem lies. Removing the fantastic effects, there is no lore, there's no compelling arcs, there's no contrasts, there's no common goals, no bartering or deception despite the Decepticons having the namesake, no chemistry between humans and Transformers, or humans or Transformers and Transformers, no development of characters. There's just nothing. There's nothing but this bland point A to point B plot that has more holes than a youngster's jeans. I started this script with a positive attitude, but unfortunately the more I analysed, the less I like it as a whole. I'm not saying every movie needs to be this soul-defining spiritual journey. You know, I love turn your brain off action, but only when I get what I expect. I expected a Transformers film and got a coming-of-age crappy E.T. knockoff that happens to have Transformers in it. Optimus doesn't show up until the film is halfway through its runtime. So yeah, I will do 2 and 3. Not that anybody cares, but I'll do it anyway. I had the sole intention of actually enjoying this film and enjoying writing about it. Unfortunately, that went a bit sour and pear-shaped. The more I watched it, it falls apart. It's like a really bad brownie. It just crumbles in your hand. Or is that a really good brownie? The film falls apart when you watch it, alright? Stop criticizing me. Okay, I've been... What's my name? MovieTime. Goodbye.